Again, welcome to Austin Startup Week. I am your track advisor. My name is Tony, and I want to say thank you to Friday Health Plans. We just heard from Kylie Everhart. Again, Friday Health Plans is our sponsor for this amazing track. And just to let you guys know, they provide insurance for gig workers. They expanded in Colorado, Texas, New Mexico, and Nevada. So please give them a shout out. Thank you, Friday Health Plans. And I'm going to be introducing Morgan Simon. Morgan Simon is a functional nutritional therapy practitioner, and she's going to be talking about cultivating workplace wellness and thinking outside of the box to increase employee health and happiness. Hi, Morgan. How are you today?
Hi, Tony. I'm great. Thank you for the introduction.
Yeah, I actually brought my Pokemon Psyduck. Do you know who Psyduck?
I don't. Introduce.
So this is actually a Pokemon that has a lot of mental wellness issues, and he gets like horrible migraines, and he's always going like Psyduck, la la la. I don't know, but I just brought him because it's mental health and wellness, and I'm like, why not? Let's bring a Pokemon here. We got to catch them all.
We're gonna give him some good tips. We'll get rid of those headaches.
All right, Morgan, go ahead, take it away. I'm so excited to listen to what you guys say.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Give me just one moment here. Let's see here. All right, there we go. So today we are going to be talking about workplace wellness and really thinking outside of the box to increase employee health and happiness. And I'm really passionate about this topic and so excited to bring it to the startup world. Obviously, it is top of mind for everybody right now, as it should be. So we're going to be diving deep and taking a look at different ways that we can really cultivate health and happiness within the workspace. So I am Morgan Simon. I'm a functional nutritional therapy practitioner and non-toxic living expert. But prior to diving into holistic nutrition, I worked in marketing and technology for a decade, and I love Austin Startup Week. I've been several times to the event. I love the startup crawl. Things are different this year, obviously, with it being virtual, but I think in a lot of ways, this is really great because it makes it accessible to everybody. So it's an honor to be here, and it's really exciting to be talking about health and wellness, which brings me to the first obvious question, like what in the world is a functional nutritional therapy practitioner? And with functional nutrition, basically what that means is I'm a holistic nutritionist. So instead of just looking at one individual symptom or one individual activity that's going on in the body, with functional nutrition, we're looking at the overall picture. So I want to address root causes of imbalance rather than look at individual symptoms. In the Western world, a lot of times there is this ideology to look at headaches separate from seasonal allergies, separate from the stress that's going on in the body. Whereas with functional nutrition, we look at the big picture. And how does that apply to startups? Well, companies now more than ever need to have wellness initiatives. It used to be where you could pay $65 a month as a gym membership for employees, call that your wellness initiative, and be done with it. And that's no longer the case. Now we need to look at the overall picture for holistic health: physical, mental, emotional, financial, intellectual. All of these factors contribute to the overall health of employees and to the overall health of the company. You can't have a thriving startup when you have people who are not physically well and emotionally well. So we're going to be diving into that intersection and looking at how we help employees and yourself achieve optimal wellness. I I will leave some time at the end for questions, so feel free to pop them in the chat. At any point, we'll be walking through several different pillars, but feel free to send questions and we'll try to get to those at the end as well. So why should you be concerned with workplace wellness? Like we said, it's 2020. The world is a crazy place right now, and health and wellness is top of mind for everybody, which is wonderful that for the first time in a while, we have so many companies and so many individuals concerned with health. But it isn't just a problem that has started within the last year. This has been an ongoing issue. So here's a few statistics that put things into perspective. So more than a third of workers say that their jobs are harming their physical or emotional health, and 42% say that job pressures are interfering with their personal relationships. Half say they have a more demanding workload this year than last. Historically, those numbers tend to be underreported when we look at studies like this. So this is from a few years ago. We can only imagine what it is today. And actually, there is some up-to-date data. It's just beginning to get compiled, but it's pretty staggering. This one is from 2020 in relation to a COVID-19 study that was put together regarding mental health. And during late June, 40% of US adults reported struggling with mental health or substance abuse. So this is by no means a one-off issue. This is almost half of the collective US adult society struggling with mental health. And then as far as how that pertains to companies, it is impactful in so many different ways. We talked about the fact that you can't have a thriving startup or a thriving business without having healthy employees, but there's also a cost factor that goes along with it. This is just looking at one particular medical condition, but for the cost of obesity, when you look at medical expenditures and absenteeism for a company with 1,000 employees, it's estimated to be $277,000 per year. Obviously, most of us work with startups, and so we don't have 1,000 employees. But when you consider that this is just one medical condition, and when you compound it with all of the potential medical conditions, the numbers add up really quickly. And it's quite staggering from a cost perspective to think about how much you're spending when you aren't focused on helping employees live their healthiest life. So let's talk about how we do that. What is your responsibility? And I truly believe that whether you are a startup founder, whether you work in HR, whether you are an individual who's running your own company, regardless of what your role may be in your job title, we all have a responsibility to health and to bringing health to our startups. We do this in a few different ways. First, by implementing policies that address physical, mental, emotional, and intellectual health. We will be talking about these different areas on the talk today. Obviously, today is Mental Health Day for the Austin Startup Week, and there's some really fantastic sessions that dive deep into mental health and how to structure programs around that. So make sure that you stay on for the whole day because those are going to be really, really informative. We also need to focus on creating a culture of health, of balance, and of productivity. So creating this culture is something that we'll talk a lot about. And I know that culture is a buzzword in startups, but it really is important to dive deep into what that daily life looks like for your startup, for your company. Next is providing education and resources on holistic health and wellness policies. And then last, and this is a big one, do not hinder your employees' health or wellness. And there is quite a few ways that companies unknowingly do this. So we're going to dive into those because, aside from encouraging employees to live their optimal life and to have a life of health and of balance, we need to make sure that as the startups, as the employers, we are not doing things that get in the way of their health. So the way that we do this, I've broken it down into seven different topics, and we're going to go through each of these individually and talk about how together, by focusing on these 7 pillars of workplace health, we can really help achieve that. So first, back to culture. And I say this because the daily culture that you create matters a lot more than the monthly or quarterly or annual events that you have. Those are all wonderful things and they are fantastic. But if you have a quarterly workout that you host for employees but don't encourage smaller daily things, those habits are not going to be impactful. The good news is that a lot of these daily habits you can do regardless of whether you have 1 employee, 50 employees, 100 employees. It's a matter of making them the routine, building them into the daily structure. So the first is movement. And this is one that I am so passionate about. We all have heard that sitting is the new smoking. And it is true that just being stationary, especially when we look at it for 7, 8, 9, sometimes 10 hours a day, humans were not designed to live that way. That is not at all how we were created to live. And never before until the last 100 years were we in an environment where we just sat in one place for 8 hours a day. So one of the best things that you can do is just to structure routines around movement. So daily walks during breaks, having a couple of short walks or walking meetings are really fantastic ways to do this. There has actually been some really interesting studies. There was a Harvard study done that looked at walkers versus non-walkers, and they found that creative output increased 60% when a person was walking or following walking. So 60% is pretty astounding when you think about how that plays out for a company. When you have this sudden increase in productivity for employees, all of the things that could follow that is pretty incredible, on top of just the benefits that you get for employee health from having these short bursts of movement. Next, sharing of health goals. So it's well documented that when you share health goals, you're much more likely to achieve them. And this is for a couple of different reasons. We have that extrinsic factor where once we share it, we are more likely to achieve it because we're being held accountable. But there's also the communal component. And so when we have this community of support, which the workplace is such a perfect built-in format for that, we're far more motivated to achieve it. So facilitating health sharing and health goals and making that part of the team environment is very impactful. And then again, something very simple, but again, impactful is the daily and weekly reminders. So we're going to go back to some of the basics in this talk, nutrition, hydration, movement, stress management. But when we build in reminders to, okay, it's been 3 hours, let's get up and take a walk. Let's do a stretch break. Let's take a few minutes of meditation. Setting up these reminders and just building them into that structure of the day is a good way to encourage long-term adaptation of those habits. And then just consistent encouragement. I know most of us are probably virtual right now. And this can be applied whether you're virtual or in the office, but having that encouragement, whether it's through signage, through emails, through webinars, on team meetings, encouraging people to go back to the basics and to adopt this daily health routine and health habits can go a long way in developing that culture. And then, of course, just creating a health culture where health visits are encouraged. It can be, especially right now, during a pandemic when there is a lot of people who are trying to homeschool their children and work full time and just live in this time of unknown, it can be really easy to put yourself on the back burner. And so encouraging the routine visits, the dental, the health visits, those proactive things that we can do versus reactive, creating a culture where we're encouraging employees to take the time for self-care is a great way to build that healthy culture. Now, this is one of my favorite ones, and it's really, I would say, a great place to start is just with education. And this is one place where across the board this year, I've seen a lot of companies really step up and do an incredible job of this. It's one of the most impactful, cost-effective strategies that you can do. And again, this works whether you have 2 people, whether you have 200 people, but providing some solid education and bringing in experts is a great way to increase that holistic health, because you can do a variety of experts. So you can focus 1 month on physical and nutrition, 1 month on mental and emotional health, 1 month on preventative care. You can really do a broad range of subjects that all together are going to create that holistic health employee and that holistic healthy company. So there's a few different options that you can do. Webinars work really fantastic right now, or virtual Q&As are a really great way to take advantage of this type of environment that we are all living in. Once once the world eventually has transitioned back to in-office, in-person events are really impactful, and workshops are a great way. Here are some examples that I've listed out that I've seen companies do, and there's several that you can do, but these are just a few. Creating a healthy at-home workspace. That's one of the pillars that we'll dive into today, but this should be top of mind for everybody. A lot of employees and a lot of people were thrown into this work from home life without having a place to work from home. And it was such a drastic kind of overnight change that not a lot of thought went into how to build a healthy environment, how to build an office that was ergonomically sound and that increased productivity. So educating on that can be really, really helpful right now. Understanding your bio-individual nutrition needs. This is my bread and butter as a functional nutritionist, and one of the things that doesn't get enough airtime. So educating employees on how they can best nourish their bodies for their individual needs is a really great topic to focus on. 15-minute lunch break workouts. This is a great one that you can do, in person or virtual, but there are several different companies that will come in. Camp Gladiator is a local Austin one. They'll come in and do a lunch and learn workout and do a quick lunch break workout for your employees. This can be a one-time thing where you can have somebody come and kind of show a great 15-minute stretching routine, or it can be a regular thing where you're educating people on how to move their bodies safely and for optimal benefit. Eliminating toxins within the home, stress management during a pandemic. This is one that I've seen several companies do, which couldn't be more relevant and couldn't be more important. It's really critical to understand just how incredibly stressful this period has been and what a strain it has been on mental and emotional health for employees. And so providing the tools and the education and the resources and the access to experts is truly, I would say, the most impactful thing that you can do in this day and age for employees. And then again, the Q&A with specialists. I love this because this tends to be an interactive way where your employees can come, you can come equipped with questions that you want specific answers for. And it creates this really beautiful dialogue of honesty and transparency because you have access to ask whatever you would like. Now going into just the policies a little bit more. And I know later on today on this track, there are some specific sessions on creating policies and on how to select insurance providers, which is wonderful. One of my biggest pillars and pain points that a lot of people encounter is that insurance for quite a while was very limited in the services that you could offer and the providers that you could see. So when you are selecting insurance providers and policies, try to offer a wide range of types and a wide range of services, particularly the ones that are for preventative care. And, we've heard it all called sick care at some point, but unfortunately that is pretty accurate when it comes to healthcare in our country. I am seeing a shift, and I think a lot of us are seeing a shift, which is amazing. It does take a little research and a little legwork to find out which insurance providers are kind of leading the way with providing that preventative care. And so when I say a wide range of services, I obviously mean, the health, the dental, but also looking at the mental and emotional support. Is therapy included? Is chiropractic care included? Do your employees have the option to see an integrative specialist? And if so, is that covered? This is one thing that I have personally watched the change in insurance policies. And it is really wonderful right now to see that biologic dentists are covered by insurance plans, that integrative specialists and family practices are covered. But again, just do the legwork to find out specifically what is covered and at what rates so that your employees can have a variety of providers to choose from. And then again, going back to providing that education on the policies and what their options are is really important. And of course, it's 2020. So this is, it seems a little crazy that we still have to have this conversation, but maternal and paternal policies they should not be considered an option. They should be as comprehensive as possible. And this is an investment in employee health, obviously, but in company health as well. There is something I'm not going to say it's a superpower when you become a parent, but when you become a parent, the productivity, the problem solving skills, just the ability to take a step back and look at the bigger picture, it is incredible how this shift impacts work and productivity. And all that to say, you should want as many mothers on your team as you can possibly get, because we are superstars. And so creating maternal and paternity policies that are as comprehensive and that really, really help with that shift into parenthood. And this goes beyond paid time off. Obviously, there should be as much paid time off as you can possibly provide somebody to support them in that adjustment, but also taking a look at that transition back into work and doing a tapered, beginning at a certain amount of hours and gradually increasing, and keeping that dialogue open and finding ways outside of the box to support that transition and to support that period in a mother and father's life is really critical. And I can't say that enough. Again, it's 2020. The United States is behind the curve when it comes to our maternal and paternal policies, but that does not mean that your companies have to. And I think as innovative startups in Austin, we should be the ones leading this and providing the example for what a solid maternity and paternity policy should look like and how to create workplaces that support parents. And then, we talked a little bit about exercise and wellness stipends. And I said that that's not enough to do that individually. However, it should absolutely be a part of the holistic wellness policy. The key thing to remember with these, though, is that they need to be flexible and they need to be tailored for bio-individuality. A lot of times what I'll see is companies who say, here's, $60, $70, $80 a month for a gym membership. And while that does work great for a lot of people, that certainly is not going to be appropriate for everybody. There are some people who don't enjoy gyms. There are some people who that is not their preferred way of exercising, or that might not be the most impactful thing for their health journey. So what we can do is we can tailor these policies to where they allow for that individual to use them on wellness. And so this could be something like, nutritional therapy, or this could be something as simple as walking shoes or running shoes for the person who prefers jogging outside to going into a gym. So considering those stipends and how we're giving people the flexibility to use them is a really big thing, and something that is a really easy shift that can make a big difference for certain employees. All right. This is a big one because right now, I'm pretty sure that all of us are working from home and have been for several months. And like I said, this is a shift that a lot of us weren't anticipating. It kind of happened overnight and we were thrown into this world, and it's progressed into months. Providing employees a way to safely work from home and optimize their work from home health is a really, really big deal. Indoor air can actually be up to 200 times more polluted than outdoor air. And right now we have people, quite a few of us who will spend days never even going outside. So you wake up, you shower, you have breakfast, you start work on your computer, you work all day, and then it's time to power down for dinner. And we're not actually stepping outside, which we will get into that. But all that to say, we really need to focus on how we can make that home office the healthiest place possible for all of us who are spending our days there. And there's a few different ways that we can do this. And we'll get into in-office health next. And there's quite a bit of overlap. There are several things that we can do both in an office environment and in a home office environment to maximize health. The first one is just looking at the ergonomic support, and so that actual physical surroundings for the desk. Providing stipends for employees for standing or moving desks, for ergonomic keyboards, for support mats or balance boards, just going back to those basics of, okay, what are they going to physically need so they can maintain structural health within their body. Also providing stipends, I'm going to grab mine right here, for blue light glasses. When people are working from home, especially when they are parents and they are trying to get their children ready for online school or homeschool, there tends to be a lot of waking up early and working before sunrise and then working after you power down. And so part of the way that we can maximize work from home health is to encourage some balance and some limitations within that, and providing the support for employees to have a realistic workload, But obviously, people will still need to sometimes work in those off hours. So providing blue light glasses is a really easy way to help employees balance that change in circadian rhythm that results from using screens before and after sunrise and sunset. So just sending each employee a pair of blue light glasses and explaining the benefits of using them when you're working before sunrise and after sunset is a great way to encourage that work from home health. Just education on how to set up a healthy home office environment. The fact that, biophilic design, which we will get into a little deeper, is so important. Bringing the outside in and having access to fresh sunlight and then opening up the windows to help with the airflow is a really, really impactful way to increase air quality while helping flush out some of those toxins in a home environment. Again, flexibility. This is a big one for everybody right now, but for parents, it is particularly important. And simply explaining it and spelling it out to parents that we support you, we understand what you are going through, and providing, written encouragement regarding that flexibility is a really big deal. I also encourage everybody to think outside of the box. So to think about parents and to think about other people groups who are in a particularly strenuous situation right now, on top of just the general stress that the world is in, and take care to send them meals, send nourishing meals, send coffee gift cards, do small tokens of appreciation for employees that really encourage them during this time while they're working from home and dealing with quite a bit on their plate. Providing resources. So this goes back to that education component. Providing resources on reducing EMF exposure. So EMF is the electromagnetic frequency. And one thing that we're seeing a lot with home offices is that people tend to set up right next to the Wi-Fi router. And then they'll have their laptop with the double monitors, with a cell phone, with a tablet. And what this creates is quite a bit of EMF smog. So there's some really simple ways, if you're in your home office right now, if you move at least 10 feet away from the Wi-Fi router, that is going to make a big impact on that EMF exposure that you have. We can also get, and this is a great way, when we're providing stipends, is there's quite a few different EMF reducing devices. So laptop covers, phone covers. There's a company called Defender Shield that I love that makes these. And so providing these, or at least educating employees on these, is a great way to help them improve that home health environment. And then again, going back to air quality, it tends to be so terrible inside. So providing resources on eliminating toxins within the home. Again, this is one of my favorite things to talk about, and I won't nerd out too much, but one quick way that we can really improve the indoor air quality is to remove toxic cleaning supplies and paint supplies and insecticides and pesticides, and think to your garage or underneath your cabinets. If you have containers of these things, simply removing them and putting them outside in a shed is a really great way to improve that indoor air quality. So providing education on this topic with a bunch of those small changes is a really great way to support employees' health there. And then again, going back to the basics, these are things that are the paramount foundation for good health, but they're things that tend to be forgotten about. So providing that education and support to employees while they are working from home about movement. You can't have a healthy life when you are sitting down for 8 hours a day, regardless of how your nutrition or your hydration is. You have to move in order to be healthy. So supporting employees in their movement, in their nutrition, in their hydration, and in encouraging that time outdoors. And again, building that into the culture is a great way to support that. So making sure that from the bottom up, from the top down, CEOs, everybody within a company is focusing on these pillars of good health. That'll help encourage everybody across the board. Now, I think that we probably can go back in our brain and remember several months ago when we would go into the office, what that was like. And let's talk about just office environments in general, because unfortunately, they tend to be one of the top offenders when it comes to this indoor toxic, terrible air conditions. And there is so many things that we can do to help eliminate that. And one of the things that I really want to focus on is that within an office, as an employer or as a startup founder, every decision that you make is either going to hinder employees' health or help support them. And so what we want to do is make sure that every product that we bring in, every decision that we make is supporting health rather than taking away from it. And so the first thing that we can do is incorporate biophilic design. And what this means is bringing the outside in. So making the office environments as natural of a space as possible. And this begins with sunlight. So fluorescent lighting is kind of the standard in a lot of offices, and it is really, really terrible. It triggers migraines. It's been tied to post-concussion syndrome. It's really, really difficult for people with light sensitivity to balance that fluorescent light, especially when you tie in all of the screens that they're looking at. There was a study done in Cornell where they looked at office environments, and in the ones with optimized natural light, there was a reported 51% drop in eye strain and 63% drop in headaches. So this is well documented, just the difference between natural sunlight and fluorescent lighting. Obviously, there is a need for lighting within an office. So there are some specific lighting options that you can choose that are much more beneficial than fluorescent lighting. And I will send a recap of this presentation, and I will link to some of those options afterwards. But it's just important to be aware that the lighting really makes a big difference, especially when we look at the circadian rhythm. And so what that means is that's just your body's internal wake clock. And when we're exposed to lighting like fluorescent lighting and blue light from the screens and the devices that we're always looking at, it can have a profound negative impact in our natural circadian rhythm. And it can actually stop our bodies from getting into deep restorative sleep, even several hours after you've looked at a device. So one of the ways that within an office and for at home that you can help mitigate this is to put blue light filters on all computers. And this is a really simple takeaway. If you take nothing else from this talk, make sure that you have this set up on your phone and on your computers. I personally like Flux, F.lux. It's free. You can go and download it. It takes a few seconds, and then it just runs in the background. And what it does is it is going to adjust the blue light based on the time of day. So if you're working before sunrise or towards sunset, you'll notice that your screen is a little dimmer and there's less blue light that is projected. This is, again, really going to help balance that circadian rhythm. Not to nerd out too much, but when you are exposed to blue light right before bed, you are prohibiting that restorative sleep, and that really impacts your growth hormones, and it impacts your mood hormones as well. And so you aren't able to properly restore. Your body is not getting into that deep sleep, and it's impacting everything from growth, from healing, to being able to have a stable mood. And so this is, I can't overstate it enough that taking these simple measures to help balance that circadian rhythm is really important. Going back to just the physical surroundings of in-office health, standing and moving desks are wonderful. I will put the caveat here that, there was a transition to go from sitting desks to standing desks, and think that solved all of the problems, when in actuality, we're seeing that just standing in one place isn't very beneficial as well. It's really that movement. So fortunately, when you're standing, you can have a little bit more flexibility with your body, and even doing calf stretches or leg raises or a couple of butt kicks is a great way to kind of get those bodies moving and incorporate some movement throughout the day. Ball chairs are another great way to provide some ergonomic support that tends to be a little bit better for our bodies structurally than a traditional chair. And then movement areas. So this can look a lot of different ways. Ideally, we would all have like a office, a gym that is big and beautiful, but that is not reality in the startup world for a lot of us. So it can be as simple as having a couple of yoga mats with foam rollers and actually encouraging their use and demonstrating their use. Kettlebells are one of my favorite ways to get a quick workout in, because you can do a 10-minute kettlebell workout that is a whole body workout, really gets things moving for, again, 10 minutes. So it's wonderful for that lunchtime workout for employees. And then just having offices, on the second, third floor and having access to stairs, or of course, Pelotons are everybody's favorite way right now to get moving, which I think is fantastic. And including them in your home office or providing stipends for employees is a great way to just get that movement, that culture of movement into your startup. And again, now we go back to air quality because, like I said, offices tend to be really big offenders of horrible air quality. And what happens is first, when you think about a traditional office environment, most of the time there's not windows open. So we're not getting that fresh air circulating throughout the office. And then in pretty much every office, there is, a supply closet that has cleaning supplies, insecticides, pesticides, these really toxic blends that even when they are completely sealed, so they have not even been opened, they are still releasing volatile organic compounds, VOCs, into the air at a rate of parts per million or billion or even trillion. So these are all released into the air, and then through air conditioning, a lot of times they're circulated through the whole office environment. So even though your desk may not be right next to that supply closet, you're still getting all of those VOCs right into your workspace. And then to compound it, a lot of times we see terrible mold issues, especially in Austin, where we have this humid environment. Mold tends to be a really big offender. So adding some air filters throughout the office, particularly in high traffic areas, as well as by those potent sources of toxins and VOCs, is a great way to help mitigate that. There are some air filters that also read air quality. And so when you get an idea of how your air quality is in the office, you can make significant other changes to help mitigate it. And then beyond this, it's a great idea, whether you're at home or whether you're in the office, to have mold testing done regularly. Again, in Austin, it just tends to be something that happens here, and it can have a lot of short-term and long-term health effects. And so it's really important to just become aware of how your office is performing and how the air quality is, so that you aren't hindering employee health unwillingly or unknowingly. All right, now back to my favorite topic, nutrition. And I could talk all day about this, but I know we only have about 10 minutes left. So I don't think that you are a startup or a company if you don't have snacks in the kitchen, if you don't have a stocked kitchen. What, unfortunately, a lot of these kitchens tend to look like the kid food aisle at the grocery store. And it's chips and it's candy bars and it's, all of these things that are not contributing to employees' health. And they are facilitating this really terrible blood sugar roller coaster, which when it comes to productivity is terrible. I think in almost every office, we can look to the line at the coffee maker at 2 p.m. Where people are hitting that afternoon slump. And that slump does not have to happen. It is a sign of blood sugar dysregulation. So one of the ways that as employers, as startups, we can help mitigate that is to provide food for employees that is nutrient dense, that's real food, and that has a balanced macronutrient profile. So, grass-fed beef jerky sticks, nuts and seeds, nitrate-free lunch meats, whole milk yogurt, providing that really nourishing, healthy fats, fruits and vegetables, nut butters. These are all some really great ways that we can get in that nutrient-dense real food. It doesn't always have to be, taking everything away. I know that you probably have the angry developers coming and yelling at you if you took away all of the snacks. So I would say just add these in and go through the process of really considering what you're feeding and making swaps here and there. There is an Austin company called Siete, which I hope everybody knows because they're delicious, but they make cassava flour, grain-free tortilla chips. And so swapping those for the regular tortilla chips is a great, easy health swap. Taking nuts and seeds that are dry roasted versus the ones that are coated in a toxic canola oil. Doing some simple swaps is a really great way there to help encourage employee health. Prioritizing lunchtime as a part of the company culture. So when you are eating, if you are not in a parasympathetic state, so in a relaxed state, your body can't actually properly digest the food. And this is one of the biggest things that we run into in just the US culture, because we're always like grabbing food and eating it in the car. And I am so guilty of, for many years, just working behind my computer screen through lunch. But this is not very healthy, and it doesn't help our bodies absorb food. So just encouraging stepping away. And then again, when it comes to catered meals, just focus on providing real food. There's wonderful options, both local ones like Honest Mary's, or there is national options, Chipotle, Modern Market, Zoe's Kitchen. They don't have to be above and beyond expensive, but just provide options that are going to provide a balanced macronutrient profile for employees. All right, let's all go ahead and grab your water glass. Nobody tune out. We have just a few more minutes, so we'll go through this quickly, but take a quick sip of water. And let's talk about hydration. And this I can't overstate enough, because it's been shown that dehydration of only 2%, so that's less than like half a glass of water for most of us, has shown to decrease cognitive function with only 2% dehydration. So this is staggering, and this is something that nearly everybody is chronically dehydrated. There's some simple ways that you can help encourage proper hydration. So prioritizing water quality, you can actually go to the EWG tap water database, and you can look at the water ratings for your zip code. And it's not pretty in Austin, and it's not pretty in pretty much every other city. So doing high quality, either filtered water or spring water, placing signage around the office is also really effective at just encouraging that hydration. I personally I'm a big believer in the electrolyte balance. So rather than just plain water, you can do a little squeeze of lemon and then some unrefined sea salt. So this is Celtic sea salt, Himalayan salt, Redmond salt. The unrefined sea salt is a fantastic electrolyte, and it has a really robust mineral profile. And that's a great way to help just while you're at home or while you're in the office to get that hydration going. And then I won't say I put replace here, but I will say just consider adding, Topo Chico and coconut water to your beverage arsenal. There's a lot of times nonstop diuretics. There's the soda and the juice in offices, and those are dehydrating to the body. So when we're focused on encouraging employee health and hydration, we want to make sure that we are providing great options for that. And then if there is one thing that you can swap out for organic, both at home or in the office, let it be coffee. This is traditionally one of the most highest sprayed crops. So there's a lot of insecticides that are being applied to coffee beans, but it's also really high in mold. So doing the highest quality organic coffee for your employees and for yourself is a big step in the hydration department. And last, recharge. I think that this goes without saying that encouraging employees to recharge and to have this built-in time on a regular basis. So again, going back to that culture of movement, the walking breaks, the movement breaks, meditation, weekly yoga classes. These are great ways that we can facilitate this on a daily basis. Also having generous policies in place for sickness, bereavement, maternity, paternity, and also vacation. The caveat there is it needs to, again, be within a culture that facilitates their use. I have seen companies who provide generous maternal and paternal leave, and it isn't actually encouraged to take it. That is not appropriate, and that's not good for employee health. When there are generous vacation policies and there are generous policies in place, they need to be encouraged to be used because taking that time away allows employees to recharge for their own health, but it allows them to come back rejuvenated and ready to increase productivity and with a fresh mindset. Paid volunteer days are another wonderful way to help employees recharge. And again, they go hand in hand with promoting gratitude. Gratitude it has been shown to be one of the most impactful things for mental health and one of the most beneficial things for overall health. So promoting a culture of gratitude, and that's peer-to-peer recognition programs, signage, and then also taking the time to say thank you to your employees, to practice that gratitude is a really fantastic way to help with that recharge corporate company culture. I've seen a few questions pop through I'm going to get to. We have about 2 minutes. So before we do that, I wanted to pass along my contact information. I would love to connect with all of you. I live in Austin. I love just the Austin startup community and culture and helping to facilitate health and wellness within that culture. So it would be great to connect. I'm on LinkedIn. Feel free to send me an email, an Instagram. It would be wonderful to talk to all of you. I will go ahead, and there's a couple of questions. So feel free. I'm gonna start on some of these. Go ahead and email me if I do not get to your question, because I know that we are about to run out of time here. So do I have some apps that promote wellness? So in particular, an app for tracking nutrition. Yes, I do. So Chronometer is a really great site that you can go in. If you're trying to just get an idea for your macronutrient count, that's a great way to go in and track it and see where your meals hit. I will add the caveat that it can be difficult to know what you should be aiming for. So I believe that the USDA recommendations for certain macronutrients like profile and fat are pretty low. So unless you have a good idea of where you're aiming for, that can be a little tricky. But just to get an overall picture, that would be Chronometer is the one that I would suggest for that. What does a healthy home office look like? So first things, a lot of sunlight, great natural airflow. So opening the windows, having blue light glasses available, and then having plants close by. Plants are really impactful for air quality and for improving both that biophilic design, but also for just helping to purify the air. Those would be the top things that I could start with. There is quite a few more, and I'm so grateful. These are wonderful questions. I'm going to pass it over to Tony. I don't have time, but again, sign up I'm going to send out a link if you want to go ahead and sign up for my email newsletter. I'm going to be sending a recap of this talk, and I'll make sure to answer the rest of these questions in that recap. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Morgan. Just to let you know, I have my blue light glasses right here. So I appreciate that presentation. And, you brought up something that's amazing. It's promote gratitude. Sana benefits. We are also a startup. In our Slack channel, we have a shout outs channel. So I send out a shout out to my coworkers, like when they do something amazing, or if it's just like they just talk about themselves, or like if they say how they give back to the Austin community. So thank you for bringing those points, especially in the startup community. I know that I appreciate this presentation a lot. And please connect with Morgan. She's going to go ahead and share with you guys a link. And thank you so much.